Got the wood set up, I think. We're almost ready. I think we'll be bringing in probably another 3 loads and we'll be done. But we're done gathering wood for the morning, and we're going to be building fences for this afternoon. So I'm going to make some dinner, and we're going to make it in the summer kitchen. Obviously our summer kitchen is becoming more of a all-season kitchen, but I'm going to show you guys a little bit about working with the summer kitchen, or with the wood-burning stove again.
So the first thing that we're going to do is light a stove. You can see I've already got my tripod all set up there for helping me, but I'm going to just go over a couple things here real quick. More than likely, a lot of this is going to be like old hat to most people. So the first thing is if you watch my other video, you know that there's 3 different ways of getting into the stove. The easiest way to get the fire set up is to do it from the top. So that's what we're going to do. We're just basically going to take all of our grates off, or all of our burners off, including the center post, and we're going to work with from the top down, but we'll light it from the front because flame travels up, and we'll talk a little bit about fire as we go along here. Now, these grates have already been dumped, so you're set, but always start by dumping your ashes. Just simply, we need one of these. I'm going to come over here, stick it on there, well, maybe, stick it on there, and then you can see, watch, if there were ashes on it, the ashes would drop down. And, put this back again, one second, where they drop down to is this drawer here. And it's going to take me 2 hands to do this, so I'm going to put you guys down for a minute, but I'll show you. What I do is I put it into, you can see right around the corner there's an ash bucket right there. It is made out of metal. I recommend that you use metal, and always basically figure your ashes are hot. From there they sit out here, and before I dump the next one in, I will dump this into the lye barrel, or the big main ash barrel. I have a 55-gallon drum that is used for making lye, and that's where all the ashes go into. But for right now, but that's made out of plastic. They're either made out of plastic or wood. You cannot have a metal lye barrel. The lye will eat right through the metal. So you either got, you could have a glass one too, which would be damn expensive, but really cool looking. But usually they're either wood or plastic, 55-gallon drums. And obviously both of those things, when fire or hot comes in contact with them, either burn or melt. So you want to make sure that you're not putting anything hot into plastic. And if you are around people enough who heat with wood or work with, wood burning things like that, you'll get a horror story, and I've got a couple of them where they were sure the ashes were cold, and they dumped them, and whoosh, they had a fire. I actually lit a corner of the barn on fire, which we won't talk about, because I dumped it in the lye barrel. The lye barrel sits underneath the eaves of the barn, so it doesn't get water in it, and basically it was still hot. The lye barrel went up, and it took the corner of the barn. I mean, we got it out because the ashes helped keep the oxygen out and not letting a whole lot of flames start, but I still have scorches on the side of my barn where I dumped what I thought were cold ashes. So always expect those coals to be hot. So what I do is I take them and I put them into my little ash barrel right outside the door, and I'm going to do that because it takes 2 hands. And I'll be back. So here we are looking down at the fire. I've got you guys on the fire box. I've got you guys on the tripod because I need 2 hands to do this, and holding a camera basically means you don't have a hand. So we're going to talk a little bit about how fire works as I'm doing this. How fire works is everything on the planet has a combustion point. It's also known as the flash point. And how fire doesn't actually burn like newspaper. It doesn't actually burn the newspaper. What it does is it heats the newspaper up enough to make the newspaper, the solids, turn into gas. Like the gasoline, that liquid stuff sloshing around in your tank, doesn't really burn. What it does is it's got a very low flash point, so it goes from liquid to a gas very quickly. And then that's what burns, is the gas. And so what we need to do, and everything has a different flash point. Like water obviously has a very high flash point, which is why we use it to smother fire. You know, fire trucks come in with their big water cannons and shoot water and get the water and get the fire out. But even water can break into its two base particles if heated enough, which is oxygen and hydrogen. Both are highly flammable. You know, if you're in an oxygen room that they're using oxygen, you cannot light a cigarette. And hydrogen is, you know, that's what the Hindenburg was filled with. Boom! That stuff burns really well, and we all know this. So what you want to do is you want to find substances that have a low enough flash point that you can light it with a match. And the most common one is newspaper. Now, newspaper works in your older stoves great, but modern newsprint is different than print of old. They reformulated it all, so when you're looking at that picture of that car in the shopping cart there, you can actually tell what it is. In 1912, this would have been one big blob. It wouldn't have been a car in a shopping cart, but it would have been just one big blob. But nowadays, because we have reformulated our inks, these pictures are nice and sharp. Problem with reformulated inks is to make them nice and sharp, they use metal. And it's just tiny bits and pieces of metal. You know, it's just a tiny amount of metal. But they do use metal. And if you have a newer stove that has a catalytic converter, the metals in the newsprint, even that tiny amount, can do damage to the catalytic converter. So never, if you have a catalytic converter in your stove, never use newspaper. If you don't know if you have a catalytic converter, basically if you got your stove for really cheap, you don't have a catalytic converter on it. They're a very expensive piece of equipment. What they're made to do is, as I said before, when you heat up something, it turns into gas. Well, wood gases, making gas from wood, is not always efficient, meaning not all the gases burn. So a lot of them go up your chimney, and a catalytic converter takes those gases and brings them back down and allows them to be reburnt. And you can get up to 20% extra heat. And like my big outdoor wood boiler has a catalytic converter in it, and normally if it didn't have it, I would get a 10-hour burn, meaning I could stuff the stove and have 10 hours. But because I have a catalytic converter on it, I get an extra 2 hours, which means for every 10 hours of burn, I get 12 hours. And that means I only have to fill that stove twice a day, which is really nice. And if if you burn with wood, obviously you have to get it in some way. Usually, a lot of us get it by, we go out and we cut it, and we split it, and we stack it, and then we carry it from the stack to the stove, and then we light it on fire, and it's a lot of work. And you want to get the most bang for your buck. So catalytic converters are a good thing, but they're a very expensive piece of equipment, and they're a very delicate piece of equipment, and you certainly do not want to break it. So don't use newspaper if you have a catalytic converter. So I put some newspaper down here, and then we want to go with things that burn easily, but a little bit longer than newspaper. And I'm a cheapskate, and you'll find that if you ever watch my videos, I am like the queen of cheapskates. And so I go out and use natural. And pine cones, dry, well, what am I looking for? Birch bark is really good. Different pine cones burn at different temperatures. These are my favorite for putting on the top. Okay, this is a piece of straw, it looks like, and that'll just go in there. Then we have these other ones. These are more of your fir. This is more of your fir. And these ones take a little longer to light, but then they burn a little bit longer too. But they all have a little bit of that pine pitch or pine resin on them, and that catches pretty good. So that's why we put that on next. Then, of course, I'm going to go with a few smaller pieces of wood here. Sorry about that, breaking a few here because they're longer, but so, and these are just these are just finishing trim here. No, actually, I don't even remember what these things are from, but these are kiln-dried wood. Nothing burns better than kiln-dried wood, which means lumber. And if you can get good lumber for your stove, and do this by going and checking people who build things. Like if furniture makers, door makers, window makers, and nowadays most windows are not made out of wood anymore. The frames aren't, but pallet makers, or even just pallet companies, because when those pallets break, they try to get rid of them. And go to those places and ask them what they do with their leftovers. And a lot of times they're happy to give them to you because they have to pay to get rid of them. And they're kiln-dried wood. Now here's the thing about kiln-dried wood, and I'll just bring this up here, and I actually have an example here because I've got two. These are end pieces of a 4x4. This is when I built my handicap ramp. This one here, well, this one actually is from when I built my handicap. This one here is what's called a treated post, and you can kind of see. I'm seeing if you guys can see. If you compare it to, let's get it to the other side of this one. If you compare it to this one that is not treated, this has a greenish hue to it, and that is, they soak this wood in a solution of chemicals that make sure it doesn't rot. Wood rots. That's nature reclaims. And when you burn this stuff, if you burn it in an enclosed space, it's really bad for you. Used to be it was made out of arsenic, which was really bad for you. But the new chemicals aren't a whole lot better for you. So always, if you're going to burn kiln-dried wood, make sure it's not approved for outdoor use or it's not treated, like this one here. And you can again tell usually just by looking at them, because you can see the one has a greenish hue to it, that's been treated, and the other one doesn't. My nephew accidentally brought this one in and I have to take it back out. If you're outside and you're burning at a campfire or something, not one that you're sitting right directly over, but if you're just got a campfire for ambiance in the background, you can burn this. Just don't sit there and breathe it in. And if you want to be extremely careful, don't do either of those. But kiln-dried wood is really, really good, and you can get free kiln-dried wood very easily. So then we go with slightly bigger pieces. This is when I split the wood. Right now we're splitting the wood with a log splitter, which is a engine-driven thing, so I don't have to do it. But when it gets colder, then we do it with hand, because cold wood splits really easy. But some woods, and this particular cherry tree and oak tree, this oak tree is so stringy it's not funny. They split off and then you get these little splits. Always save them. Have a bag with you, like a feed bag or something, and gather up your wood and your little pieces of wood and keep